Clients are a normal part of agency life, for better or for worse. Some clients are amazing, and you remember them for years. Other clients are terrible, and you remember them forever. Fortunately, you have a secret weapon in dealing with some of their more ridiculous requests. But let's back up for a moment. I took a new job as director of client services at an agency. I thought I had been an amazing negotiator. They offered money, I got 25% more. They offered a title, I got a better title. It did turn out the joke may have been on me. One of my first responsibilities was to raise our prices. The agency had not raised prices in years, so it wasn't a 5% increase, a 10% increase. My first responsibility was to raise our prices 35%. But it worked. I was able to renew almost all of our retainer clients, and those who didn't directly renew continued doing projects. One of the more challenging clients was a pharmaceutical research company, a contract research organization. We'd worked with them for a while, and I had heard that the day-to-day client's boss was challenging. Now, the day-to-day client was great. I enjoyed working with her. At one point, I was on a call, and I made a joke about something. She laughed, and she said, "Thanks, I needed that. We don't laugh much here." It was so sad, but I knew why. It was because of her boss, Jessica. Jessica had been in sales before moving into marketing, and I think from her experience as a salesperson in the past, she liked getting good deals. Great deals, really. Whether it was a match for the company or not, Jessica wanted to feel like she had won. But what do you do when you're the person selling to her and she's now the buyer and she expects to get the upper hand in every situation? That's where that secret weapon comes in. One day I heard that Jessica had a new project in mind for us, and I got the details, and I came back to her with a proposal. I said, "We can do everything you want, adjusted for inflation, for $25,000. Remember, she worked at a pharmaceutical research company with a market cap of over $1 billion. $25,000, that didn't even require 2 signatures on the check. But that was too much for Jessica. Jessica said, "I'll give you $16,000. And what do you do? What do you do? I don't want to lose the sale. We needed the business. As the director of client services, it was my job to make things happen. And so I stalled. I said, "Let me get back to you." And this was when I discovered that secret weapon. A 3-step framework that is simple yet powerful, called Reason, Options, Choose. I consulted with my team, I got some additional information, and I went back to meet with Jessica. Indeed, she didn't laugh much there either. I said, "Jessica, we'd love to do this project with you. We're glad to help. It fits into our expertise. It sounds like it'll make a big impact for you and your team. We'd love to help. If you want the full scope that you'd originally requested, it would be $25,000. I started by citing a reason. Full scope, $25,000. Then I gave her 2 or 3 options. I said, we could do the full scope for the full price, or I talked to my team, what could we do for the smaller budget you had in mind? It turns out there is a smaller scope we could do. It wouldn't accomplish all of your goals, but it would fit your budget. There was also a third option, which I didn't say out loud, but which was if she didn't want to adjust the scope or adjust the price, we would do nothing. Here's the thing. Any of those would have been a good solution for the agency. We would have done the bigger project for the bigger budget, it would have been profitable. Even the smaller budget would have been profitable because the scope was smaller, and if we did nothing, we could go on to a client who wasn't quite as demanding. And then, reason, options, choose, I let her choose. I didn't force her to pick any one particular option. It was up to her. Now, I'm curious, show of hands. If you think she picked the big budget and the big scope, raise your hand. If you think she picked the smaller budget, the smaller scope, raise your hand. Either would have been good for the agency. Big scope, get the big payment, smaller budget, smaller work. In this case, when I gave her options, she chose the big budget and the big scope. And we were able to do the work, and she was happy. Well, as happy as she could be. I can't quite work magic. That reason options choose framework is something you can use with all of your clients and with your team as well. Now, if you've been in the agency industry for a long time, you may be using some version of reason options choose that you've developed on your own, and that's great. But as you bring in new team members, they don't have your expertise. They don't have your experience working with difficult clients. Teach them about reason options choose. And so you don't have to remember it yourself. I have a handout here walking through some common client scenarios. I also have 50 scripts for 50 different challenging client scenarios, which you can get access to free of charge. There's a QR code on the back of the handout. But some examples of situations, for instance, a client asks, can you do this extra work for free? I'm hearing, that wasn't a joke, but hearing some audience laughter. You could say, I'd love to help. That's beyond our original scope, but we can explore an add-on, bundle this into a future project, or adjust priorities. Now you're letting the client choose, and they're not forcing you to choose. Maybe a client says, we need this completed faster. It's not fast enough. We're currently scheduled to work on XYZ, but if you'd like it sooner, we could look at rush options, it's like a rush surcharge, or we can reallocate resources, which may impact some of your other deadlines. And on and on. And if you get the scripts free of charge, we go into 50 different client scenarios to help you and to help you delegate client work to your team so it's not all falling to you every single time. If you go to the back of the handout, you can see an opportunity to practice reason options choose right now. Think about a tough request that you've received. Then consider, what is your diplomatic reason for saying no? What are 2 or 3 alternative options that you could offer instead? And then how will you help them choose the best option? Will you talk with them in person? Is this more of an email situation? Is it something else? Now, I am guessing, given your focus on agency work, someone in the audience is dealing with a difficult prospect or client right at this very moment. Maybe they are emailing you right now. And you're like, what do I do? I'd love to help. Is anyone here dealing with a difficult client right now, and I could help you apply reason options choose to deal with them? Please do not mention their name out loud. They could hear you. But keeping it anonymous, and as an extra incentive, if you want to share a situation you're dealing with, I have a free copy of my new book, Calm the Chaos, for you, 10 Ways to Run a Better Agency. All right, Pamela, you're the first volunteer. So what is the difficult client situation? And I'll repeat it for the audience.
So the client is a not-for-profit. I submitted a proposal that's already discounted. And then she said, well, I'll have to get more proof. So now I'm waiting for her to accept the $26,000 proposal or come back with some slash.
Got it. So you have a nonprofit client, you've done a proposal, there's already a discount. The client turns out not to be the final decision maker. They're going to the board and they'll get back to you. I mean, I hope they're going to get back to you.
That's assured.
That's assured. Okay, they're not going to ghost you.
No, they're not going to ghost me. And I know what the deadlines are. And we were going to talk on Friday, but no, let's cancel that because the post still hasn't called up. Right,
So the board is doing their thing, they're drawing it out. One thing that would be helpful would be knowing about the board's motivations. For instance, for some boards, people are on a nonprofit board. I've been on several 501c3 boards. People are on boards for different reasons. Some are looking to network. Some are looking to accomplish things they might not accomplish in their day-to-day life. They also may be focused on things like making an impact around the nonprofit's goals. Do you know much about the board members' motivations? All right, here's the secret for that. If you're trying to figure out what are the buttons to push, and this works with any prospective client or current client, look at their LinkedIn profile. How do they describe their past work? Do they have lots of bullets about achievements, about accomplishments? They're probably focused on numbers, on KPIs, on metrics. Do they have a profile where they talk about great colleagues they've worked with in the past? You may have seen that, where in their job, they talk about amazing managers and colleagues they've had. They're probably very relationship oriented. Take a look at their recommendation section, not the recommendations they've received, although that can be helpful. What do they say in the recommendations they have given? I bet you will notice a pattern. Do they, for instance, talk about how quickly people get things done, how reliable they are, how brilliant they are at creating strategies and solutions? Those are the buttons to push. Now, in this case, you've shared the one option. Now, if they don't like the original option, you might have some alternatives or maybe put things into phases, things like that. But I would be ready to potentially make your client look good to their board by offering to present to the board as well. And you'll know when you walk into that room, you will know who is there, you'll know what they care about, and you can even ask your client for their advice. They're like, here's my sense of what they're looking for. How can I make you look good to the board? Now, that doesn't guarantee they will take everything that you recommend, but you're navigating a tough situation and sorting out, pressing the right buttons. That is the thing about Reason Options Choose. The right options will depend on the people involved, the right stakeholders involved. Let's give Pamela a hand for volunteering. There you go. Here's my challenge for you. And if you'd like to dig deeper on Reason Options Choose and dealing with difficult clients, scan the QR code on the back of the handout. You'll get my 50 scripts for difficult client conversations, as well as my newsletter for agency leaders, which more than one subscriber has called the only email they read every time. All kinds of tips on agency growth. And if you don't like it, you can just unsubscribe. So here's my challenge for you. Agency life is difficult. Agency life will never be easy, but it doesn't have to be so hard. I challenge you to use Reason Options Choose with a current or prospective client in the coming week. It will shift how you approach everything. They'll be happier, except for Jessica. They'll be happier, you'll be happier, your team will be less stressed out, and your agency will be smoother and more profitable. Good luck.